Yeah, as you know, in Princeton, we actually swear in the attorneys. So if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
So I swear to affirm. Please state your full name.
Eric, E-R-I-C, Goldberg. I'm with the firm of Stark and Stark. Oh, I'm sorry. Eric. Yeah, I see. Eric Goldberg from Stark and Stark. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you have just heard in a very loud fashion, my name is Eric Goldberg of Stark and Stark. I am here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Just to add a couple thoughts to follow up on what Lee was stating earlier, there are going to be 3 proposed lots. One is 23,900, one 27,200 approximately, and the third also approximately 27,200. Half-acre zoning is required, so one lot's approximately 2,000 square feet larger than the half-acre. The other 2 are approximately 5,400 square feet larger. The application and the lots meet all of the dimensional setbacks, meet the minimum acreage, satisfy the FAR as well as impervious, satisfy all of the requirements. What's being proposed are 3 single-family homes that are compatible from both a lot size and a home size for the neighborhood. I know there were several questions that the board asked. We will have 2 witnesses tonight who will address them. The 2 witnesses who are testifying tonight, we're going to have a civil engineer and also an architect. And if acceptable to the board, we'll proceed.
Yes,
Okay. I don't know if you want to swear both witnesses in simultaneously.
that would work, yes.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? So sworn. Please state your full name for the record and spell your last name.
Robert Gazzali, Gazzale.
Timothy Burton, TJB Architects. Burton, Timothy Burton.
Okay.
And Bob, if you could, please briefly describe your professional credentials to the board.
I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor in the state of New Jersey. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from New Jersey Institute of Technology, 1985. I've been licensed since 1990, and I've worked primarily in site plan and subdivision work for 30-some years at this point.
I ask that he be
Yes.
accepted as a professional engineer.
We accept his credentials, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Solo described the plans that we're working from. I don't know if he gave the submittal date.
So do you need those marked as an exhibit, or just an
No,
enlarged size of what was submitted?
Yeah,
correct?
we don't have to have them marked. If
Okay.
they're
I'm sorry, you have
we
to?
do not have to have them
We do
marked
not
if they're
have
the
to.
plans.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start with the existing conditions on the site, and that would be sheet 2 in your set of plans. And this is based on a field survey by Fisk Associates, and I am the project engineer. The site contains 1.8 acres of land. It has approximately 371 feet of frontage. On average, it's 260 feet deep. Currently, well, up until recently, but for the purposes of this application, we'll talk about improvements on the site. The lots were improved each with a single-family home and a driveway. Total impervious existing on the 2 lots is 14,700 square feet. All the utilities necessary, public utilities, gas, water, electric, and sewer are available in Prospect Avenue. The drainage on this site, of the 1.8 acres, with the exception of about 1/10 of an acre over here in the very southern corner, all of this site drains to the rear or north and then runs along the lot lines of the rear out to Riverside Drive. There are scattered trees. We've located the trees. They are primarily along the perimeter, and the remainder of the property is lawn. or in some cases, brush in the rear. To discuss the proposal, okay, it's not going to cooperate. And this would be sheet 3 of your set of plans. It's a construction and grading plan. The applicant proposes to remove the existing dwellings, the driveways servicing lot 47, and a portion of the driveway servicing lot 46. 3 lots would be created. They're all conforming to the requirements of the R5 zone. The total proposed impervious under this scenario is actually 2,400 square feet less than what is currently existing. So right off the bat, we would be reducing runoff from the property. The applicant proposes to extend, well, we should talk about the sanitary sewer. Both the existing houses are currently hooked up to the sanitary sewer. The house on lot 47, that lateral is has insufficient cover and very little slope. So we're proposing to extend the sanitary sewer a couple hundred feet, which will provide the required gravity service connection for these 2 houses. And we're still not sure how the house on 47 actually, how that sewer really works, because it doesn't work by gravity. So that house would have to have an ejector pump to the extended sanitary sewer. The impervious coverage proposed on each of the lots at a maximum is 16.1%. The Princeton ordinance limits impervious without stormwater management at 24.5%. So we're well under, in fact, a couple thousand square feet under on every lot. However, in discussions with staff, Jack Wesley and Derek, they requested that to further ensure that there were no adverse impacts on the surrounding properties and the neighbors, would the applicant consider extending the municipal storm sewer from Riverside Drive across the frontage of the property, close to 400 feet. In doing that, that would allow all of the roof leaders from the proposed houses to be connected to the municipal storm drain. So, so where we had in the existing condition 1.7 acres and probably 14,000 square feet of impervious running to the rear, unimpeded and unretained, in the developed condition, all of the impervious from the houses will be piped to the municipal drain. Only a small, the same small section up in front of the driveway that drained out to Prospect will not be collected in the municipal system. So we've taken essentially 13,000 square feet of impervious that did run to the neighbors' lots, and now that's going to go into the municipal sewer. As far as grading is concerned, we'll do the minimum grading possible. Mr. West described that the first floors proposed for the new houses are within inches of the first floors that were existing. And then as far as utilities go, these houses will connect to the existing water, gas, electric, and then through the new sanitary into the sanitary sewer system. We are proposing replacement trees in accordance with the ordinance. Staff report suggests 10 street trees as opposed to the 7 that we show. We don't have a problem with that, and we will provide those. The houses are situated fairly close to the front setback. Lots 4701 and 4702 are roughly rectangular Uh, 4601 is somewhat pie-shaped and has a limiting lot, or has a limiting depth for where the house could be positioned because the lot width needs to be met both at the front of the house and at the rear of the house. As to the question of the prevailing setback, I'm not sure if the definition requires you go up and down the block all the way, or if it's just the houses on either side, but just by illustration, you can tell that we're in front of the houses on either side. And part of that is driven by the limit of the depth on this one particular lot. That's basically it. It's a conforming subdivision. We think we're doing a nice job in preventing any impact on the adjoining properties.
And Bob, in conformance, I guess, with the memo that was prepared by the staff,
Yeah.
notes that all three of the lots comply with lot area as well as frontage, depth, and width.
Yes.
Also complies with all of the setback requirements,
Yes.
as well as FAR, height to setback ratio,
Yes.
and from parking, all the parking setbacks,
Yes.
as well as impervious.
Yes.
There was a question from one of the board members, I think it was Ms. Wilson, who requested going through the various memos.
Right.
Good.
Okay. Just to go back to the staff memo, we agree with everything in there. Mr. West suggested that perhaps we could put the utilities under the sidewalk to give some separation to the street trees. I prefer to put the utilities on the far side of the sidewalk as opposed to tearing it up, and we'll agree to replace, obviously, any sidewalk damage during construction. Other than that, we're fine with the memo.
And what paragraph is that?
I'm sorry?
What paragraph is that?
That was...
Jerry, under J, utility services, it's staff comment number 3.
Thank you. Was it? Yeah, okay. Okay, then regarding the PEC comments, the floor plans, whatever, well, Mr. Burton is here to talk about which ones have decks or whatever, but bottom line is we'll be submitting individual plot plans for construction, and those discrepancies that exist as far as what has a deck and what doesn't have a deck will be addressed at that time. Item 2, as Mr. West mentioned, or maybe, no, it was Derek, the lots do conform as far as lot frontage. Okay. Item 3, I talked quite a bit about the applicant agreeing to extend the municipal sewer and tying in all of the roof leaders and directing the driveways out to the street so that everything will go into the municipal storm sewer system. So we would not be proposing rain gardens, dry wells. I would also mention we did do some soil testing on the site, as 6 borings scattered pretty much along the rear of the proposed houses. And in all 6, there was a restrictive horizon between 6 and 12 inches below the surface. So the opportunity for infiltration is not high with these existing soils. And again, we feel we have a better situation by taking all the water into the municipal system. Item 4, we do have an ejector pump. You know, there are options, you know, either if the homeowner cares to install a generator or, you know, obviously a backup pump system, a secondary pump to maintain those pumps working the way they're supposed to. Mr. West addressed number 5 and that the grading is pretty much similar to what exists on the site. Item 6 will certainly, to the greatest extent possible, disturb as little as possible. 7 is something for Mr. Burton to deal with. Same with 8. Item 9 talks about soil remediation measures, including soil compaction remediation, and that typically occurs at the final grading. They'll run a disc or some type of scarifier across the soil to open it up, you know, prior to planting the seed. So I would expect that that will happen. Item 10 will, on the individual plot plans, will of course be showing whatever appropriate tree protection fencing is required. Item 11, of course, we will we'll stay away from the do not plant list. Item 12, Mr. Burton could address. Item 13, I'm not sure what the standard is for percentage recycling from a demolition, but of course the applicant will comply with whatever ordinances are in effect. And 14 and 15 would be Mr. Burton.
And I have no further questions of this witness.
If not, then maybe we could hear from your architect.
Sure.
Good evening. Timothy Burton. Do you want my qualifications?
Yes, just briefly.
Surely. I'm a licensed New Jersey architect. I've had my license for 31 years. I opened up my firm in 2008. We do a lot of work in the area. We currently have several homes in the township, as well in other municipalities throughout the regions. I'm also a licensed New Jersey building inspector. I received my degree. I'm an alum of New Jersey Institute of Technology, just like Bob, in 1979. And with that, if you have no further questions of my qualifications, I'll jump into the
We accept
program.
your qualification.
Thank you so much. I guess the best place to start is the program. And what we had was 3 houses of a similar floor plan, approximately 4,000 square feet in the gross. The basic complement of rooms was the normal fit out of kitchen, breakfast, great room, all combined as one large space, dining room, study, and living room as separate spaces, 2-car garage. To address the one of the issues on the energy conservation, typically the codes will drive us to a point of conservation where we'll do R19 insulation in an exterior wall, 2x6 exterior wall, in addition to having R39 in the attic, just to meet what otherwise is the code compliance, and it's driven around an envelope design which is certified during the process of obtaining your building permit by the U.S. Department of Energy's Res Check. Additionally, what we do is we endeavor to use whatever opportunities there are on the site to deal with orientation. Now you have to understand we are limited to how much we can rotate a house for solar orientation because of the street and the frontage and the lot. But we do seize the opportunity for where we place the windows to reduce those exposures for energy loss. Additionally, just by the way the market works, and these are speculative homes, that Energy Star is a primary touch point for selling a home. You know, it's almost been the standard, and then you go up from there. As I said, it's the basic layout on the floor, as you've seen on the second floor.
Mr. Burton, excuse me.
Surely.
Is that part of the plan set?
You need an exhibit on this.
Okay, why do you make that exhibit A1?
A1,
Yeah, thank you.
first floor plan.
And could you raise it a little bit? It's a little hard for us to see it.
Sure. Is that good?
Better.
Second floor, 4 bedrooms up. Nothing unusual about that.
Tim, if you could mark that as A2.
Exhibit A2. Thank you. Second floor plan. Again, what we try to emphasize here is minimizing the amount of exposure to the northern side. Of course, we do have a requirement for codes that we have windows for egress in bedrooms, so wherever you have a bedroom, you have to have a window of a certain size, but also the focus as far as where you place windows is always dealt with the front of the house, the frontage, and just for the curb appeal, and thereafter you try to get skylights and high-performance glass for where you need to get light in. We share baths. It's 3.5 baths total in the house. And again, the house is approximately 4,000 square feet. To put that into character, probably within a quarter mile of these homes, I have done 6 other homes of a similar size. And the fit and finish of this home is not unusual for what we see in that area for this type of market. And we'll go briefly through a rendering of what the homes will look like. This is Exhibit A3. This is a rendering of one of the homes. Again, wood frame construction, engineered wood floor joists and beams. Now, to address the FSC in terms of lumber and energy conservation, these are engineered lumber, which is they basically take the industrial waste of lumber production, the sawdust, the wood chips, and so forth, and they turn it into beams and floor joists. It is basically repurposing the wood chips and sawdust, if you will. So in of itself, it is a form of energy conservation. It's also an effective form of structural design as opposed to depending upon 2x10s or so forth. The roof rafters are pretty much the large dimensional lumber we'll use, which are the 2x10s. So in terms of what you demand from a forest, the lumber is minimized by the fact that we're using a lot of man-made engineered lumber. The elements on the exterior, asphalt shingles, a good component of that is recycled material. The siding is what we see in the area, which is a composite. It's otherwise known as hardy plank, which is a cementitious board. Looks like wood. Again, that too has from fly ash, from furnaces, from generators. That actually has a component of being recycled into it. And then we have what otherwise is a cast stone or a veneer stone accent around the base and metal trim. Depending upon the manufacturer, that too has a component of it which is recycled. There was a question having to do with the reflectance coefficient of the roofs. We will endeavor to try where we can, so it's economically feasible to use roofing material that meets that. Again, on the photovoltaics and the geotechnical, for energy production, we will, wherever economically possible, see where the possibilities exist. And as far as the use of green building materials, we too will also endeavor to use wherever we can recycled materials along the same line of what I've already described in terms of what is on the market. The good news is that the building market has gone more in that direction because not only for the ethical responsibility of becoming green, but because it is cost effective. And with that, I'll close my presentation and ask for any questions. Shirley?
It's partly a question for you, but partly a question for probably Derek. Remind me about FAR. Does that include the garage and a second floor on top of the garage? Is that 4,000 feet that, assuming that house is sort of the type that will be built, does the garage, both floors of the garage count? What happens?
Excuse me. The garage would count. There's no exemption for a garage. And then that story above would count up to this. It would act as an attic, so that part of it would count. And then the first and second floor in the main house would count.
But presumably it could be an apartment.
Well, they'd have to apply for a flat permit, and there's FAR requirements that the flat can't exceed a certain percentage of the FAR of the house, but it possibly could be. And there's a parking requirement for a flat as well.
So our assumption is, this thing is sort of scary.
They're big. They're loud.
Our assumption is that the 4,000 square feet would include both floors of the garage to the extent they're going to be. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, David?
Yeah, I actually was going to ask a similar question because the second floor plan did not show space above the garage, and I wanted you to flesh out, the rendering. It's quite apparent that there's space over the garage, and I'm curious why it wasn't shown on the second floor plan, how it's accessed, and what kind of use the space would be put to.
At this point, it's attic. And because of, if you think about it, to try to minimize how big the garage gets, first of all, you're starting lower because you drive into it. And the space above it is a lower roof ridge. So effectively, what you have is a big attic above it. We provide the windows on it for the architectural detailing of the overall house. But as it's designed now, it's not a floor space.
Does it have a stairs?
Not by the current design.
Hmm?
Not by the design, no.
So when you say it doesn't have floor space, you're saying that it would be open to the garage below? It would be a cathedral-type ceiling in the garage?
Well, to prevent the roof rafters from thrusting out, you need collar ties. Now, those collar ties double as a ceiling to the garage.
So there would be a fire separation between the space, since you would need to separate a garage from dwelling space, right?
By the code, you need to separate that with a 1 hour barrier, which is 2 layers of sheetrock.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Wilson?
How do you can you access it as attic space? Did I miss that part?
You probably will need to put in a access panel to get up to it in the current design.
So you'd have to climb up on something and climb in there. There's not like pull down stairs or some access point from the other part of the house?
There's no access point from the other part of the house, and it could be either an access panel or a stair.
Okay.
Yes. Jenny?
Where's the front of the house exactly?
Perpendicular to this plane, yes.
To the
And one item I didn't touch is that while similar in plan, we'll have the opportunity to change the elevations by materials. So there's one version, and that would be another. So we have the option of turning the garage in opposite hand, or also where the entrance would be, and this is the third unit.
If you could, just since you were referring to it, just call it A4.
This is A4. Now, 2 of the units have the garage on the sides, and because of the site constraints of the third site, this has a front elevation with a garage door.
Yes, Mr.
I
Cohen?
can't remember, one of the new ordinances that was supposed to sort of address concerns about design character had to do with repetitive house plans. Was that one passed or not?
No. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, just if we could go over the PEC memo, I'm just not sure, for item number 7, what's the position of the applicant on that?
To go through in detail,
Just tell me which ones you agree to and which ones you don't.
roof lines of proposed homes to be designed to maximize south-facing surfaces with few obstructions, dormers, to maximize solar access, where feasible, where economically feasible.
Okay,
Homes to be oriented along true east-west axis to maximize passive solar strategies. That's compromised by just the way the house sits on the site.
okay.
All fixtures to be WaterSense certified. Again, this is something that the market drives, so that would be typically where economically feasible. Electric lighting have LED lamps. That is a typical building code, that 50% are LED fixtures. Appliances or Energy Star, that's pretty much market for us. Mechanical equipment, Energy Star, yes, same. Windows and doors, Energy Star rated, again, the same. Drawings to be corrected to comply with International Energy Code, NJ adoption, which requires R20 cavity insulation or R13 cavity plus R5 continuous. We are there on a 2x6 wall with the bat insulation. Provisions in each garage for electric vehicle charging to be incorporated where economically feasible. Energy Star labeled roofing with solar reflectance index of at least 78 for low slope roofs and 29 for steep roofs. Again, we will try to provide a competitive asphalt shingle to match that where economically feasible, and use of renewable energy such as geothermal and photovoltaics. Again, we will provide the opportunity for that to be incorporated, again, if it were economically feasible.
Okay, and then with respect to item number 8?
I'm sorry, at number
With
8.
respect to item number 8?
I'm sorry, the Energy Commission recommends all exterior lightings to be full cutoff to prevent any night sky pollution. Yes, light pollution will have not direct lumens illuminated.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you might have covered this already. Item number 12?
Energy Commission recommends the use of FSC lumber. Again, not only are we buying minimal amount of dimensional lumber, but what we are buying is engineered lumber, which is through the process of repurposing and the industrial waste of lumber production, which comes from sustainable plantation-grown lumber.
Okay. And is that different from FSC lumber?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is that different from FSC lumber?
Yes.
Okay.
What about for finished carpentry?
Where economically feasible, yes.
And what about item 15?
Avoid red list material for all improve health of building occupancy and prevent environmental and occupancy hazard. Yes, where economically feasible.
Okay. Where feasible? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
When you're making those kinds of calls, what determines feasibility? If it's, I mean, I'm asking that honestly. Is it about money? Is it about convenience? Is it how do you determine what's feasible when you're talking about renewable materials?
Several things come into practice, one of which, yes, is the cost of it. Second is what is the testing on this and the longevity of the materials. One, you know, there's a lot of new entries to the market without a whole history of how effective they are. We also are looking at what provides us with the longest ability to not only install it, but maintain it. And so you're always cautious when you do a home as an architect to install something that has a history behind it, and you can see the benefits of that. I mean, an example, quite frankly, was what was anticipated to be the cost savings of flake board installed as sheathing, which was along the lines of what we were talking about with engineered lumber. Well, FAST came to market, and then there was huge with the big merchant builders, huge case actions against them because the glue wasn't right. So we're, as a profession, dedicated to the notion of sustainability, but we also are prudent in what we do for our clients and adopting yet a new material or a new process. So I think if you said in the ranking of what I personally choose to be the criteria, it would be not only cost, but it would be how proven is this product. And then also you have to look at the production line. You know, if you say that you're saying it's a environmentally sustainable or it's a green material, there's the argument on batteries versus combustion. Well, what's the pollution in producing the batteries? And knowing that full chain of production and how effective that is in being sustainable. And we look into that too. Fortunately, we have a lot of help in this with the USGBC and the green building programs.
And when you're looking at costs, are you focused on life cycle costs as well as short-term costs? In other words, costs to the homeowner who ultimately lives there?
There is a definite calculus on the payback period, and what you always want to represent is that if you do have that upfront capital investment, the long term of it will result in cheaper operating costs. More insulation up front, less energy consumption later, as a good example.
LEDs too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love LEDs in the high ceilings because nobody has to go and change them for 20 years.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Julie?
I had a question for Lee. I remember we had a whole series on design standards where there was a proposal for garages not being in the front of the house. Was that ever passed, or?
It was not.
Okay, thanks.
Could I just ask, most of the things that you said you would use if it was feasible and so on, but something quite expensive like geothermal, is that sort of really in play here, or?
I wish I could find a project to do it on, but the numbers haven't really penciled. And also you have to look at where we are operating in a cold, maybe no longer cold New Jersey winter. You know, there's a threshold to where it's more effective. I embrace the idea. I think the technology's gotten a whole lot better. The investment costs are huge for something like that. Now, personal opinion is I think the market is coming around to desire more of those green gestures. So it's also a selling point, and that also tips the scale to what we were talking about of what's economically feasible.
I think that it would make us happy as a board if any of these projects were sold before they were built, that you would identify that as an option to the buyer. That would go a long way to satisfying our sense that you were serious about trying to implement these recommendations.
Okay, anything else? No?
I do have, I don't know when is the right time to bring up a general comment. Do we hear from the public first and then?
Well, I think that's up to you. Do you want to make a general comment and see what the public thinks?
No, I'd rather wait and not hold people off. I just have a general comment when the time is right, not before the public speaks.
Okay. And anyone else have any questions, specific things? Did you have further presentation?